Hi. You have found Messy in the Middle with Jeanie. I am Jeanie, and I am in the middle, middle aged, middle income, middle America, and um, life is messy. So we're all messy, and I'm in the middle, and here we go. Last week, I talked about seeing someone's true colors and attempting to um, take note of what a person shows you about their true colors, especially when you see them initially and then um, try to ignore that and build a relationship with them and then find out later that you were probably correct to be concerned about it at the beginning. Um, the week prior, I talked about mental health because the situation I'm in that I talked about last week was taxing my mental health prior to that, causing me stress, causing me frustration, causing me anger and pain. And, uh, you know, you can't really help how you react to those things, but you can help how you respond to those things. So I have worked really hard through my life to come up with a way to make sure that I am thinking about things before I act. And that is sometimes goes back to being taxing for mental health and also um, sometimes gives a person an opportunity to take advantage of a situation. Um, all of that cryptic nonsense to say that this week I want to talk about making a life change and deciding to do what is right for you, even when it's hard for everyone around you, so that you can preserve your mental health and you can be the best person possible. I had to do that this week. And it was one of the hardest choices I've had to make in a very, very long time. Um, I ended up deciding to step away from a situation that I was uncomfortable in, that I felt was getting worse. And I was sure would continue to get worse to the point where there was no return for my I, it sounds for my image, which sounds weird because I'm not all about my image. I mean, honestly, I don't really care that much about what people think of me personally. I mean, everybody likes for people to like them, right? So there's that. But I feel like what it boils down to is, while I don't live and die by what other people think, I also am not okay with being in a situation where I feel like someone is defaming. And I felt that this last week. And that was why I talked about seeing someone's true colors, is because that's what was happening. Um, because of that situation, I made a very difficult decision to leave. I should say, because of that event that really led me to understand who this person was, um, and what part they played in the current situation that I was dealing with. Um, I decided that I needed to walk away from where I was. And the reason that I'm being kind of vague is one, because I think it's important to not include other people in my videos. And we've talked about that before. I've said that I really try to avoid calling anybody out individually. Also, I feel like leaving a little bit of a vague nature to it allows you to kind of input a situation that you might be dealing with that is giving you the very same feelings or very same kind of discomfort or whatever. Um, and you can kind of liken it to your situation in whatever way that works for you. For me, uh, I felt it best to walk away. I felt that I had stayed too long at the party, as it were, and I don't like to be that girl. I didn't realize that's what was happening, and I didn't feel that way up until the last few months. But I started to feel very much like I was uncomfortable where I was, and it was taxing. It was taxing to be there. And so much of where I was bringing me joy. Other people that I was around, what I was doing, all of that brought me such joy and such just fed my soul and my heart in a way that I can't describe. Ugh, the cat. Asmer, you're fine. I promise. Anyway, the cat. So I have um I really look back on my time with joy and thanks for being allowed to be in a situation that was really that gave me so much love. And I met some great people and people that I would be heartbroken if me moving myself from the situation were to mean that I didn't get to be around them anymore, ever. Like that I didn't ever see them, didn't talk to them, they weren't part of my life anymore. That would be heartbreaking for me. I really do feel like the relationships that I built in the situation were invaluable. And I have a special place in my heart, um, especially for a handful of them. And if you are one of them, you know who you are. I do really feel as though it was the right choice to leave. I was starting to feel um, just the weight of being in an uncomfortable situation. And if you've ever been in an uncomfortable situation, you know what I'm talking about. And sometimes we stay in those uncomfortable situations because we don't really feel like we have a way out. Um, and sometimes we stay because the idea of leaving is scary, because it can be really scary. And sometimes we stay because we can't imagine not being there, even though it's not where we want to be. And sometimes we stay because we have to. And I feel like it's important to state that because it's not as easy. You know, so many people would say, well, if you're uncomfortable, change your situation. That sounds awesome. I think that sounds really fantastic. Not all of us have that luxury. And especially at the time when we are really feeling that we should go. Um, it's making my eye twitch. Um, I feel like it is important to note that not every situation that is uncomfortable is easily changeable. And that is taxing on your soul. It's taxing on your mind. And I completely understand being in a situation where you would love nothing more than to change where you are. And yet you don't have a way out. I would encourage you, if that's where you are right now, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're feeling like, I know exactly how that feels. I need to change where I am, but I don't know how. I don't know what to do. Um, Potentially, in that instance, I would say decide that you want to go, which is sometimes the hardest part. Once you have made the decision that you really don't want to be there anymore, whatever the situation happens to be, and you have, at that point, then you need to come up with your exit strategy. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be within a few days or even a few weeks or a few months. It could take a while for you to get out of the situation you're in, but you have to come up with a strategy. You have to come up with some parameters for what will help you feel like you are able to go. And if that's as simple as being offered another option, or if that is as complex as creating a whole new life for yourself. I've had to do both in my life, and none of it is easy. All of it is miserable. And it is just sometimes so daunting to even think about what it will take to remove yourself from the situation you're in. And I get that. I would advise that if you are uncomfortable where you are, you absolutely need to start taking steps to change it. It's not as easy as just changing it, and I get that, but start taking steps. Little steps. It doesn't matter if it's a little step or a big step or a leap. Sometimes it takes a leap to get out of that situation, but start taking steps. Start thinking about what are some possibilities. If it's a financial problem, figure out a way to make money somewhere else. And that doesn't mean just one somewhere else. Maybe you figure out a way to get a different job and get a side hustle so that you can make enough money to fund your life. Maybe that means that you reduce your expenses and you cut down on, I don't know, whatever it happens to be, in order to then not have to have so much of a side hustle. Um, so if it's financial, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. And if you're like most of us, you live paycheck to paycheck. Middle class is middle class. And I have been everywhere from broke as a joke to where I'm at now. And will, none of it's easy. Um, so if it's financial, there are ways to help. There are ways to get out of that. It just takes commitment and it just takes continual effort. And I say just takes, and that, sounds like I'm being, making it, then I'm simplifying it. I'm making it sound, oh, super easy, just, but that's not, I know that it takes that kind of effort and that kind of consistent, one foot in front of the other, making it happen kind of situation. And if it's financial, there are ways to take care of that. So see what resources are available to you and do what you can to put yourself into a better situation. If the reason that you cannot leave where you are is because of an emotional attachment, I would say that's a big chunk of a lot of the reason that most of us don't change our station when we have the option, or not change our station, change our situation when we have the option, is that we have this um, hope that it'll get better. Very rarely does it actually get better. If it's gotten bad enough that you want out, and it looks different for everybody. I don't know what bad enough that you want out looks like for you. But if it's gotten bad enough that you want out and you are considering an exit strategy, I would caution you to avoid thinking that it's going to be different if you stay any longer. I have yet to have a situation that was uncomfortable enough for me to feel like I wanted to find a way out that ended up improving. I wish I could say that I had, but I have never had one. I have never had a relationship with a friend or a significant other, a job situation, a life situation that was bad enough for me to think I need to figure out how to get out of here, that ended up getting better. Maybe in the short term, maybe, you can advocate for yourself a little bit. And I would highly advise advocating for yourself if you're able to. I, in my experience, the changes that come with advocating for yourself are often short term. And maybe what you need to do to change your situation is to advocate for yourself long and that hard enough that you get things changed to be more comfortable, long enough for you to be able to see a way out. That does happen, and I have seen that happen. And not that let me go back not that advocating for yourself and talking to people and figuring things out is never fruitful, because I do believe that it is fruitful. And I think that there are many times when you will have a situation, just stirring my tea. There are many times when you will have a situation that you could, that if it could just get a little bit better for a little while, you could stomach it until you're able to make the change that you really want to make. And that I would say, go do that. Advocate for yourself and do that. I would say, I would caution you not to expect a permanent change. And I would caution you that that probably will pacify you long enough to do what you need to do. And then you will still need to move on. Um, like I said, I've never been in a situation that I was able to recover from that level of discomfort by just talking to somebody. Um, but it does help to talk to somebody. And at the very least, it gets it off your chest so you're not holding it and stewing in it and waiting for something to change that's never going to change because you didn't say anything. Um, I definitely advocate for changing things where you can. Um, my situation, since that's where all this started, my situation, I tried to advocate. I was really hopeful. I tried to advocate. I tried to have conversations with people about, making changes. It didn't work out for me. And in fact, it made things worse. So which it absolutely can, quite obviously. It can, because it made things worse for me. So it could potentially make things worse for you, and be prepared for that. Speaking up and advocating for yourself can often make things worse for you. And I've seen that a multitude of times in my life. Often when you're in a situation that's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable because of the way someone else is behaving. And if you are in an uncomfortable situation because of the way someone else is behaving, you speaking up for yourself will often make that behavior worse. So just know that going in, that that's a possibility. In this situation, I finally hit a point where I decided that I absolutely could not do it anymore. And what was interesting is that in the meantime, I had some potential prospects for change come my way that I was not pursuing as much as just investigating, because I would highly recommend that. You don't want to, out of the frying pan into the fire, as it were. You don't want to be so desperate to leave that you get yourself into another bad situation. Definitely look at at what your prospects are for change before you go and make a decision. And have those conversations, talk to those people, whatever you need to do, evaluate it, talk to somebody you trust about their opinion about things, whatever. But I think that for me, I felt that I owed it to myself to see what might be out there and might be available. Thankfully, it was positive. It was a positive conversation that I had, and with one of them, the other one didn't really pan out. But I did have a really positive conversation with the one, and I am looking forward to the change. It's going to be good, and I'm happy. Um, Everything kind of ironed out the way I had hoped it would. And so, um, yeah, it's good. Um, Unfortunately, I wasn't 100% sure if it would when I made the decision to leave my previous situation. Um, I wasn't 100% certain that it would work out. Not because of anything about the prospect, but because there are so many variables. And like we've talked about, it could be financial, it could be emotional. There are hundreds of reasons why you might be struggling with the idea of leaving where you are, even though you're uncomfortable. Um, but it ended up working out, and I'm really excited. And yeah, moving onward and forward, as they say. Um, if you are in a situation that you are feeling like you really need to get out of, and things are just progressively getting worse, as I said in the mental health video, talk to somebody you trust. Sit down and have a conversation with somebody that you trust, who knows you. And that could be a friend, that could be a spouse, that could be a sibling, that could be a parent, whatever. Talk to somebody that you trust, that knows you, and talk about the details. Talk about the pros and cons. Make a list if you need to. I just feel like it's worth it to try to change where you are if you are uncomfortable. And if you are, there are plenty of people that will value what you can bring to the table, and you should find those people. You should look for that and it may take a while. It's not going to come overnight. I was lucky that my situation came pretty quickly. Um, but I would say, man, do what you can to change it. Life is too short. We are all on a ticking clock, right? And life is too short to trudge through every single day miserable for the sake of an emotional attachment or for the sake of a paycheck. There are ways to help alleviate the stress of not making enough money or feeling sad about leaving. There are ways to deal with that. And I don't think that it's worth staying in a situation that is uncomfortable for you to hold on to either one of those things. Not in my life, anyway. Maybe in yours it is. And I'm not faulting you for that. If you feel like you just can't see your way out because you can't deal with the finances, or you can't see your way out because where you are has too much of a hold on you emotionally, I understand. I have been there too. But I would highly recommend that you do whatever you can to figure out a way. It's really important that you, on one hand, I want to say that you do what makes you happy. Sometimes that's not, sometimes, sometimes it's not about what makes you happy as much as what makes you less sad or less frustrated or less uncomfortable. Makes you more comfortable. Um, and I'm not saying that's my situation right now because I don't believe it is at all. I feel like my new situation will be great. I do feel like sometimes it's not about getting the perfect situation, it's about getting a better situation and giving yourself room then to breathe so that you can look for the next better situation. Not every situation is going to go from bad to really great. And I think that that's also important to remember, is that it might not be that it's the perfect situation. It might not be really better or not better. It might not be really like what you're looking for, but a little bit better is still better, right? So if you have the opportunity to do that, do that. And maybe that better comes with advocating for yourself and staying where you are, but advocating just enough um, to get yourself through to the point where you can take a step to make things better. It's better still. Um, anyway, I hope that if you're listening, this was helpful. Not because I helped to answer any questions, because I don't feel like I did, but I hope that it was helpful to hear that happens to everybody. It happens to all of us. The rarity I feel in life is to have a really put together, lovely existence where you grow up and you know, the white picket fence and the whole bit. I really think that that's the rarity. I think most of us, it's a mess. And I definitely am one of those people that has trudged through the mess. And I think that, I think that it's done really good things for me. And also, I think whew, sometimes it would be nice if it wasn't like that. It'd be nice if it was just real easy. I would say that this transition is probably one of the easier transitions that I've had to make um, as far as waiting and figuring and sorting and trying to make everything need to be what it needs to be. Um, but yeah, it's still not easy. The emotional piece for me is really hard in this one because the financial piece is different, but it's not tragic. And really, for me, it's an emotional attachment that's giving me the hardest time with the change that I'm making. So hopefully, hopefully I can keep those people in my life that I really want to, and that I am really hoping to maintain relationships with, because that's going to be really important to me. And um, and hopefully this new situation is what I'm thinking it will be and what I'm hoping it will be, and everything will be good. And I hope the same for you. I hope that if you are needing to get out of where you are, that you take the steps to do that, and that are you do what it takes to make your life better, to make you feel better. It's hard to get up in the morning knowing that you're going to have to go trudge through another day of something that is awkward, uncomfortable, sometimes agonizing. I've been there. Not that that was this situation, but there have been times when it is just like agony to get up out of bed and go deal with whatever it is you have to deal with. So if that's where you're at, I'm sorry. And I hope that it gets better soon. I hope that you can find a way to make it better, because it's important. It's important for your mental health, we talked about before. It's also important for your physical health. I think that there's a lot of people that, they think about mental health a lot, but they don't think about how that mental health ultimately affects your physical health. And it is no joke when they say stress kills. It is no joke. So if you are, it actually, the level of stress that you have in your life potentially puts so much strain on your body that your health could be in question. Also, so I mean, I would say if you are in a terrible, stressful situation, really uncomfortable, really stressful, uh, really just kind of agonizing situation, and you finally are able to see your way out so that you can be in a situation where you're comfortable and you feel um, safe and relaxed, you should see a doctor and make sure that all of your things are good. Have them check all of your blood work and all of that, because the stress, you may not have even realized how much stress you were under, because we just keep going, right? We're in a stressful situation, we're uncomfortable, we just keep going because we don't think we have a way out. And when we finally do find the way out, then our body kind of like shuts down because we've been in this weird crisis mode forever. And I think that it is really important to, when you finally have that change, you need to see a doctor and talk to a doctor and make sure that you're still healthy, because you might not have even realized the toll that it was taking on you. I know that's the way it was for me, with my son. And we've talked about him a couple of times, but I didn't even realize how badly my body was suffering. I knew I was in a bad way. And that was one of those things that there was no way out, right? Sometimes there is no way out. I wasn't going to stop caring for my son. I wasn't going to, uh, I wasn't going to do anything to change. There was no way to change that situation. That was a waiting game in that situation. And that sometimes happens. Sometimes you have to wait for your opportunity. And unfortunately, my opportunity to get healthy and my opportunity to be out from under stress provided stress in a different way, in the way of grieving and being, feeling really sad and kind of like I have an empty space. Did you ever watch Stuart Little? He talks about he has an empty space. Um, and I will forever have a little bit of an empty space. Um, I am starting to heal and I am starting to get healthier little by little. And um, I can't say that I am upset about that or sad about that. I also would not have traded my son to get healthy. So it's kind of one of those situations that um, you just, I would never trade one of my children for my health. And so, um, but since that's the way it went, then I'm glad that I'm able to start getting healthier. And so definitely take care of yourself. And if you know you're in a stressful situation and you know it's not going to change, you know there's just no way to get out of it, take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting yourself checked out. Make sure that you're following up with your doctor and that you're keeping track of where your health is, your blood work, and all of that kind of stuff to make sure that um, you can survive it, because it could be really hard on your body and you don't even know it. So anyway, um, that is pretty much it. I did not do a craft again today because I am exhausted and I didn't even expect to talk this long. Um, so I wasn't going to bust out anything crafty to work on. Um, I am very tired. It's been a long week. It's been a stressful week. It's been an emotionally taxing week. Making those changes, especially when there's emotional attachment, like I've talked about, are hard and exhausting. And I have really felt like I can't get enough sleep this week. So it is past my bedtime right now. I'm going to go to bed. And I hope that you all have a really great week. And as always, if you have questions or if you have comments, please leave them. And we'll see if we can talk about it later on. Obviously, not tonight, because tonight I'm going to be sleeping. But, um, you know, anytime, definitely let me know what you're thinking. Okay. All right. Messy in the Middle with Jeanie. I hope you have a really great week, and I will see you next week. And hopefully, I have really good news.